the actual sport doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. We could be talking about baseball. We could be talking about the Rangers or the Mavericks or the Stars. Here we like to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco, where a go-for-it attitude is always the fans' attitude and often the media attitude. Sometimes it's even the right attitude. We've talked about this kind of privately with colleagues and some NFL people as well about how doggone responsible the Dallas Cowboys have been in recent years. Cap responsibility, carrying money over to the next year, making sure that all the pieces fit in a way that doesn't ruin your future. And we're wondering, as we sit here now looking at this roster and this climate, if it might not be time for Wildcattin Jerry to come back one more time and elbow calculator Steven out of the way, veto him out of the way. And we mean this in a fun way, of course. I've detailed for you the apocryphal, is that the word? Mythological stories about how Jerry wanted to go hog wild for spending for something or for acquiring something, and where Steven had to wrestle him to the ground. The Johnny Manziel story is not true. That's a myth. Nobody had to wrestle Jerry to the ground because he was reaching the card that said Johnny Manziel's name on it up to the NFL draft table. Physically, that would actually have been impossible to do because Jerry was at Valley Ranch in Irving, and the table was in, I believe, New York at the time. Robert Blackwell, the Cowboys staffer, is the guy that sits at that table, and he had two cards, Ryan Shazier and Zach Martin. There was no Johnny Manziel card. Not that day, not ever. It wasn't going to happen. But the myth grew. And the myth makes it sound like Steven had to wrestle Jerry to the ground. Now, there is a similar story that is true. You go back to the pursuit of Deion Sanders, and Steven took one look at what Jerry was planning to do and really did grab him by the lapels and said, are you out of your mind? And in the end, all things considered, they were both right. Steven was right. The price that the Cowboys paid to acquire Deion Sanders was incredible. The deal, as it related to Nike, was basically the centerpiece of a lawsuit between the NFL and the Cowboys. And I don't know if Steven brought this up at the time, but it ended up being the case. Deion Sanders, God bless him, was a disruptive force in the building. The issue of racial conflict, which had never been one before, came up when Deion Sanders came here. And Deion manufactured issues where issues did not exist. He did not shed light on problems. He created problems, forcing poor Barry Switzer in the middle of it, trying to have to make a choice between this faction of players and that faction of players that were never factions before Deion got here. So all those things were real, and Steven foresaw some of those things. Maybe not that last one, but some of those things. But then Jerry was right, because doggone it, they won a Super Bowl, which is the whole point. Do everything you can to win a Super Bowl. Cap-wise, personnel-wise, decision-making-wise. Don't worry about next year, worry about now. That's an approach that Jerry Jones used to take. And it's the kind of thing that caused this organization to have a reputation, Jimmy and Jerry together. They'll do anything to win. The Russell Maryland thing was a do anything. Chad Hennings was a do anything. The list goes on and on and on. So some players great, some players good, some didn't work out, some moves great, some moves a level down. But the names that we can rattle off were where the Cowboys of that era were go for it, go for it, go for it. Russell Maryland, Deion Sanders, Chad Hennings. The Cowboys actually worked with the United States government to get Chad Hennings here. That's a unique level of let's do whatever it takes. You don't see that much anymore. Now, times have changed, circumstances have changed. I understand that. But from the Herschel Walker trade, which we all know about, the most famous one of all, to the Deion Sanders acquisition, to, gosh, again, some of them that didn't work out. The Roy Williams trade, the wide receiver Roy Williams, that didn't quite work. On and on and on and on. This team, over the course of decades, under Jerry and Jimmy, and then Jerry as the driving force, this was a move-making outfit. And they don't do that much anymore. I'm suggesting here, that while there are horrendous cap ramifications to the Cowboys doing some restructures, and we'll get into the details a little bit later today, so stick with us. I'll have a Cowboy cap report for you coming up in a little bit. I mean, this is, hey, let's take this guy that's injury prone and let's extend him out so we have room this year to do something. Dak Prescott or more. That needs to be seriously discussed by this team and maybe even accepted that let's grab it now like we used to. It's a consideration. Let's grab it now like we used to. And we'll figure out 3 years from now. That's not the way this team does it anymore. This team is very calculated in its use of the big calculator. And they've done it it's very smart what they've done. I mean, intellectually, it's smart. Is it smart in terms of winning games? They've mapped out the puzzle pieces here the last couple years. Again, intellectually, very smart. Mathematically, very smart. But is it going to win them the division? Is it going to get them in Super Bowl contention? Do they need Wildcattin Jerry to tell calculating Steven one time? Let's do it the old way. One time. Let's move money. Let's move it like crazy. By the way, I'm 78. 3 or 4 or 5 years, you worry about that, Steven. You and the grandkids worry about that. Let's go get this now. One time. Let's do it, or let's at least think about doing it in such a drastic way. We might have to do a separate video on this too. Why don't we trade Dak? Seriously. I'm not doing headline porn on you here. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to call the Jets at number 2. You watch in this NFL draft. You watch and see. And the reason why is their general manager is out on a limb now. Howie was in trouble with the owner. It was Howie versus Doug. Somebody was going to get their head cut off. The general manager survived. But now he's got to do something, or he won't survive much longer. He's got to do something. Now, you know what I think about the Do Something Club. I hate the Do Something Club. Just do something. I don't know what. But Philadelphia needs to make a dramatic move. I bet you Philadelphia calls the Jets at number 2 and goes and grabs themselves a quarterback, or tries to. Should the Cowboys be similarly aggressive? Not dumb, not dangerously risky. It can be a calculated risk. This isn't a prediction, by the way. I'm not predicting that the Cowboys are going to get Dak to agree to a trade to the Jets that nets the Cowboys the second pick. I'm saying this building better be thinking about it. I'm saying that Wildcattin Jerry used to think about it, and then sometimes did it. Calculator Stephen has been very responsible, very intellectual. The puzzle pieces fit, but the puzzle pieces don't win. Wildcattin Jerry, for all the criticism that you've had of him when he was wildcatting or when he wasn't, Wildcattin Jerry did win. Maybe Wildcattin Jerry needs to make a return. Fish out.